Good morning, everyone. We would like to tell you a few words about some factors inducing differences in depopulation and aging in relatively similar geographical conditions. We are going to use case of 15 former mining cities with a long-term mining tradition since medieval times already. Our selection was done based on decline in mining occurred during the last decades of the socialist period and later. These cities and towns are in relatively similar geographical conditions. So in mountainous areas, these regions are more peripheral, less or least developed regions of Slovakia. And the mining was, let's say, core of the local economy. We identified two main clusters, namely coal mining cities and mining other minerals. There are distinct size differences. So these towns are from, let's say, several thousand inhabitants up to more than 40,000 inhabitants. As you can see on this map, this is location of the cities and towns. The most of them are located in, let's say, poorer southeast of the country, and this is also very important background for further analysis. And 5 of them are located, let's say, on the frontier between richer northwest and poorer southeast of the country. So our research questions are as follows. The first one is, if the decline of mining is, let's say, a death sentence for these cities, especially in less developed or least developed regions, and if there is any kind of response and effort to mitigate such development, and if any, if it is visible in demographic data. And last but not least, if locals can change developmental trajectories and defeat geography. So in other words, if the local activity matters. I would like to point out that this is a rather indicative presentation, so only some preliminary trends, results, and wider context. And we will analyze factors later on. But just to mention, we intend to assume these factors starting from, let's say, macro regional attractivity to some demographical factors like existence of segregated, mainly Roma communities, up to some decision-making factors. So just very briefly, some empirical evidences about demographic trends. Population size, as you can see, there is a great heterogeneity within the set of the cities. Most of them have been depopulating in the last 25 years. Only some of them have grown. Natural increase is one of the major factors of this depopulation. As you can see, the most of the cities and towns is below zero concerning natural increase. And as you can see on this graph of total fertility rate, the most of the cities and towns are even below lowest low levels. So below 1.3 children per one woman. Only two cities are nearby replacement level 2 children per one woman. Net migration also plays a key role, of course, and the most of the cities and towns are below zero concerning net migration values. The only universal trend is concerning aging, of course. So in all cities, the mean age has been growing in the last 2 or 3 decades, but the differences between the cities, as for percentage growth of mean age, are quite different. So there is a variety of values as for growth. So now Jan will carry on.
So good morning. So I will work further on this issue. You could see some general geographical conditions, some factors, and some signs and features of population development. So we can have some introductory imagination about the problem. But we would like also to address the issue if there are some possibilities to find any kind of a response or effort to do something with such kind of a population development. We try to focus on the central level if there are any kind of a urban development or urban policy. In fact, we have to mention that there are no urban specific policy. The last and only first one is urban development policy adopted in 2019. There is also no specific urban kind of a policy focusing, let's say, on the urban shrinkage that we have in some countries. And we also do not have any kind of a specific policy addressing mining or mining regions. We have some sectoral policies addressing mining, but they are mostly focusing on the companies that are working in mining. There's not kind of a complex type of a policy addressing mining until now. So if we try to think about the possibilities, we can find only general tools and policies that are available also to other mining cities that are addressing less developed regions, or there are some incentives for investment in such regions. Of course, there are some kind of ad hoc support and support of cities that have, let's say, a specific position, like cities with valuable historical heritage. Within the last decade, we can observe also rising role of the European Union and rising attention to urban dimension within the Europe and European policies. But again, it's going not in a direction that could be helpful to the cities, because this policy mostly focuses on larger cities and city regions. So it means to the larger cities. And the positive sign is that within the last year, due to the rising attention to the climate change and changing of the energy mix in the European Union, the rising is attention to the coal mining, which concern also a set of our cities. So the main field, of course, is always the activity of the local level. In this case, we have local self-government, which is quite autonomous. Besides some compulsory functions and competencies, they have a right to be initiated. So if they consider some situation as not good for them, they can act. Of course, there are some limits. There are limits in, let's say, in general local capacities. There are personal weak. There is a lack of professional staff at these cities. Imagine that some of them are, let's say, below 10,000 inhabitants. So there are usually a small office. So they have to work with some external actors, with some other sectors, with NGOs and business in efforts to improve the situation. Nevertheless, we identified a set of policies that we could address if they can have some positive impact on the population development. We would like to focus on social housing, social rented housing. We would like to focus on an emerging sector of local social economy that is part of this support for the local economy. We could find some signs of local family policies if they are, I think, active in the field of support, or let's say preschool facilities or some kinds of financial support. Of course, there are activities addressing local economic development to support new businesses, new workplaces. And of course, there is quite a large planning framework that developed within the last, let's say, 15 years that cities could use for outlining the intentions and to put these ideas into the implementation level. So there is a quite a large set of planning possibilities.
You have 2 minutes left.
Okay, I mean, it's just probably one of the last slides. So we are realists. We do not expect that such kind of policies can substantially change the trend. We can see that there is some kind of a framework that is available to the local governments and the local people to do something with the situation. But we see there are some other factors that's quite important in which time the mines were closed. The situation now is much more friendly for them. They have much better policy framework. And of course, it also depends if it is a coal mining or it is other metal ores mining. So such factors also influence the availability and possibility to influence the policy. Well, we could see that there is a possibility for local effort. We can see that there is an attempt to find some new local equilibrium, to find a new balance among various aspects of life. And of course, we can see that there are some efforts to mitigate, to adapt. But I think we cannot expect any kind of regrowing or something like such kind of results. So it's quite a vital environment. There are a lot of effort, and some of them are really very innovative. So we can see that if these efforts are really effective and has some impact on local population development and the fate of the local community. Thank you for your attention.